take that off. Great, everything should be in order here. We have a very simple session agenda today. Um, just a couple of bullet points, but they're chock full of content. First is the 2025 roadmap. We have a very solid hand on what is going to be developed and released in H1. We are leaving H2 in more of a planning stage. We have a good idea for slotting things in there, but as I'm sure you can all relate, things change throughout the year, priorities change. Other issues come up that we didn't anticipate. So H2, while not fuzzy, and we do have things planned out for it, it is not as settled as H1, but we'll talk about that throughout the session. And then I want to talk about the February release highlights. The preview release, sorry, went live last week, and the production release will be going out or be released on February 5th. So building on that, here are the other release dates for Summon and the 316 and TOTA services. They still share the same quarterly feature release dates unless otherwise announced. Last year, I believe we had to push 316 and TOTA out by about a week. That rarely happens though. So you can anticipate that everything will be released on the same quarterly release dates. So as I said, February 5th is Q1, May 7th is Q2, our third release is August 6th, and our final release for the year will be distributed on, the production release will go out on November 5th. All of these do have a preview release that will go out 2 weeks ahead of time, and that's noted on the right-hand side of this table. As noted, 360 and TOTA has the same release date. Summon maintenance releases, they will continue to occur on the first Wednesday of all of the other months. So outside of that quarterly release schedule, we can anticipate that there will be a maintenance release. The kind of big exception to the maintenance portion of that label is that the research assistant is going to be released in March. So that will be something that is going to garner a lot of attention, need some documentation, is a big change, is a big asset for the Summon ecosystem. So I wouldn't necessarily characterize that March release as maintenance, since it does have such an important tool. But we'll get into that in a little bit more. And there are no preview environments for the maintenance releases. That is including March, and this is a mistake on my part. I've corrected it on the list, but we will talk about that in a couple minutes. I do want to talk about our strategic focus areas for 2025. We can put these into three broad categories. The first is user experience and giving researchers confidence in the tools that you're using, whether it's improvements for Summon in the user interface, instilling confidence via the tools that we're promoting with Research Assistant, etc. The second broad category is library empowerment. This is giving administrators and fellow staff members and colleagues a little bit more insight and capabilities into administering Summon and getting the most out of it. And the third category is searching, ranking, and the continuation of CDI excellence. So in terms of user experience and confidence in our Summon tools, the roadmap highlights for this year are going to be, first of all, the Summon Research Assistant, integration with Rapido ILL, and then we have 3 projects that are denoted as serve projects. Serve is the new tool that we're using for voting on ideas, exchange ideas. So this replaces what had previously been called NERS projects. So I know they sound very similar, but this year they're Serve projects. The first of those is leaving the end date open when using the publication date facet. The second is omitting non-local libguides from expanded searches. And the third is displaying a series volume in the brief results within Summon. Final category that we're going to touch on is accessibility. So Summon Research Assistant is a place that I know that we can anticipate some questions from folks every time I talk about it. I get a lot of questions and they're all very good. I certainly don't have all the answers, but you will be, any questions that you do have will help seed an FAQ and inform the documentation and help distribute knowledge. But so what I'm showing here is a first screenshot of what the Summon Research Assistant tool looks like. As you can see, it's embedded in the Summon framework. But you do access it from the hamburger menu within the base Summon tool. So it is actually taking you over into essentially a new URL, a new interface. And this is a sketch of what it's going to look at like. There will be some changes over the coming weeks, not too many, but this is the primary layout. And what I have highlighted here is at the top is the natural language search that was done in order to garner the results that you see below it. In this case, it's did Picasso's time in Paris influence his artistic style? As I said, this is natural language. It's more conversational. It's less less formatted, less maybe rigid syntax, and something possibly more that users are a little more acclimated towards using or becoming more acclimated towards using. And so the results from entering that search question, the second thing I wanted to highlight is the overview of sources. And this is what the research tool excels at. It is combed through the CDI, the Central Discovery Index, and pulled together a summary of top 5 sources that it thinks that our large learning model believes answers the question that was posed in the query. So this is the overview of sources has taken what are those top sources 1 through 5 that are listed immediately above it and pulled together a summary in order to help the researcher gauge whether the sources look appropriate, whether it's a relevant answer that they think will continue their research successfully, will help them answer questions. The other thing that I wanted to point out on this screenshot is, as you can see by the highlighted square on the right side, is the view related results in your library search. That will actually take the natural language query posed in Research Assistant and translate it into Summon syntax in order to view accessible content within your local Summon instance that users can use. So that is this is a little bit confusing, but I didn't want to make a crazy small screenshot for you. So the next shot that I'm showing you is the continuation of that page. So this is as though you would scroll down. The overview continues there at the top. And then at the bottom, you can see the related search questions. So based on the query posed to Research Assistant, here are some similar questions that the tool believes are related and will help you continue to query possibly different sources. Each of these will will provide a slightly different summary based on sources within CDI and present those to you. On the left-hand side, in that left panel, you can see the ability to start a new topic. So if you wanted to write a completely new query, you can click there and do so. If you are an individual who is logged into the system, you can see your search history for this session. And I will get into that logged in aspect in just a few minutes. But there is a running history of questions that were posed for this session. They disappear afterwards. And at the very, very bottom, it says ask your next research question. That's similar to start new topic. I wanted to kind of zoom in on the idea of those top sources informing the summary that the Research Assistant tool provided. In this case, we can see we have some books, we have ebooks, another book, and a video recording. In order to create that summary or that overview for the question, we are looking at abstracts from CDI and some of the full text and providing an answer or the summary. But if you click on those individual sources, you will get the details of that source from what we have in CDI. So in terms of instilling confidence, this is just a way to buttress the fact that, you know, these are vetted sources. They're academic, scholarly, frequently peer-reviewed. It's not a kind of search of the entire available internet or web sources. These are our participating publishers and providers and the good vetted information that you already trust within Summon, right? These are the kinds of things, this is the content that you can already access via CDI, and this is just a tool that's layered on top that provides some summarization and overview and allows you to see from where that summarization and overview came from. And then again, the view related results allows you to translate that search and go see those sources within Summon. I know you're going to have a lot of questions about this. I'm saving some time at the end in order to get those to you. But here are some pretty high level research assistant things to know. Again, I made a mistake. I said that there would be a preview release 2 weeks ahead of time. That is not the case because it is still a monthly maintenance release. So it will, the preview, I'm sorry, hold on. The Research Assistant will be available for you to look at on March 5th, the same time as we actually do the monthly production release. So it will not be available on February 19th. That was my mistake, my fault. I apologize for any confusion. Research Assistant will be available for you to kick the tires on March 5th. It is completely optional. You can enable it in preview and test it out, see what your colleagues think, have a few if faculty members or researchers or students take a peek at it if you'd like. You know, you can take as long as you want in deciding if this is a tool you want to open up to your community or not. And it can be individually enabled in preview and production at any time of your choosing. There is no cost to you. You do not have to pay any additional fees for this tool. And a very good question that was posed to me yesterday was, is there a change to our terms of use or contract terms? And the answer is no. We are not asking you to engage in any additional legal kind of rigmarole, and I don't mean to be glib about that, but you don't have to take any extra steps in order to enable this tool beyond deciding amongst your library that it's something that you want to enable, and then going into Customizer and actually turning it on. We do have some not unreasonable guardrails in trying to not vet that a user is coming to Research Assistant from your library. It's not fail-proof, but we are asking that users authenticate via the social platforms that are already available. So Google, Microsoft, Facebook, or SAML, or be coming from an on-campus IP, so that we can, kind of pretty well establish that they're coming from the library, and just try to ward off any abuse or exploitation of the tool. There'll be based on a discussion yesterday again, we know that there will be additional questions about this and how it's going to work. So, you can anticipate that this is definitely going to be part of the FAQ and documentation going out. Another type of guardrail that we're putting in is caps on the number of searches that an individual user can do, or that the aggregated guest user profile can do. As of right now, that daily threshold will be 1,000 searches. So if someone logs in via Google, Microsoft, or Facebook, they can do 1,000 searches per day, at which point they will get cut off. We know from experience with the Research Assistant tool in Primo that is rare. That is a cap that folks rarely hit. And then the aggregate guest user search threshold, that's 1,000 for everyone who's coming from an an authenticated IP profile. The next integration that I want to talk about for the year is some integration with Rapido. As many of you have probably heard about, Rapido is a resource sharing option available from the Ex Libris Library Open Platform. And this extends the amount of content that's available to researchers via ILL and document delivery. We are launching projects with Summon and 360 sites worldwide right now to begin testing out the capability of requesting articles and book chapters that are available from additional sites. Pardon me. At first, to begin with, this will look like a typical integration with an ILL platform, and we are aiming to really beef it up throughout the rest of the year by scoping out additional work in order to integrate Summon with the Global Title Index. The Global Title Index is on our CDI platform that publishes the contents, the materials that are available from other Rapido sites. So this will enable the addition of physical material requests. So stay tuned for that integration progress. As I said, we're kind of phasing it out. Sorry, not phasing out. We're phasing it throughout the year, beginning with some Summon 360 sites, and then moving towards a more complex integration with Summon. Now I want to start talking about some of our served projects. The first is leaving the end date open when using the publication facets. And the idea here is that we want to give users access to as much content as they want. So the screenshot that I've got here is an example that I took just yesterday. And it shows that if you pick the publication date of 3 years, so something that's been published in the last 3 years, it sets the begin date to 3 years ago today. And then the end date is automatically applied as today. So that means that anything that has a publication date that is not yet established, that is open-ended, or is something like an online first or ahead of print article, it won't show up in the results unless the user knows to go in and edit this end date by deleting it. So again, this is giving users access to more content by default. They aren't going to be forced to go in and edit this, and anything that has a publication date that exceeds today will appear in those brief results. The next couple of projects are on this slide. The first is omitting other libraries' libguides. The goal here is to eliminate confusion for users. When they currently when they do the add results beyond your library's collection option, other libraries' libguides are included in those results. And they can be misleading, confusing. Frequently they contain local information, local help, and it's not, I want to say not always, probably generally not always applicable to your local community. So this option will give you the capability of getting rid of the appearance of libguides in the results of an expanded search. The next project is displaying the series volume in brief results. We do currently, for series, display a volume in both the quick look and the catalog record display if you have that enabled. So you can see volume on that, on those two places, but you can't see it currently in the brief results. And the request here is to put it where that red arrow is currently pointing. So in between the series, in this case, the Brill studies and the actual publication date. And this is just to give your users an idea of which volume that is being referenced here without asking them to go to a different display page in order to see that information. Lastly, for user experience and confidence, I just want to talk about accessibility. And you'll notice that there's not a ton of detail on this page, and that is very purposeful. I want to emphasize that accessibility is incredibly important to us, and it's essential to our design process. It's essential to development and QA. We are putting out yearly VPATs. We have integrated accessibility controls into our development and QA processes. So that kind of big arrow is to emphasize that it is an ongoing process and ongoing concern and critical to how we think about our software. One of the ways that this is evident is in how we've approached Research Assistant. It was part of the design from the ground up. And as we've seen Research Assistant gain more traction, particularly with our Primo users, we've incorporated the feedback. The CDI Summon Primo teams have been working incredibly hard in improving on where we started based on some of that feedback, and every maintenance release has included some additional work. So it was something that we had at the forefront in terms of designing the new tool, and something that we continue to concentrate on based on feedback. And we also have some mobile improvements coming out this year. While we know that folks using Summon on mobile isn't a huge percentage of our usage, hopefully we can change that around and make it more palatable, easier to use for folks who do want to use it on a mobile device. Our next strategic area of focus is library empowerment. And the highlights for this year include beginning integration with Mixpanel for user engagement analytics. The next several, or I should say the next 4 projects are actually additional serve features that were voted on. So the first is, and this one is near and dear to my heart, this is searching for summon admin console options within customizer/admin console. The next is customizing the summon splash page. The third is adding more links to the hamburger menu, and the fourth is customization options in EJP public notes. I don't have an additional slide for that final one. There's something that I need to check on first with my development team and get in touch with the product working group about in order to discuss, but just know that that was something that the community had voted on. In terms of Mixpanel analytics, you're probably thinking, what in the heck is Mixpanel? It is a software analytics program or application that is used to improve and increase user engagement with better analytics. The idea here is that we want to track and analyze user interactions with Summon in a way that vastly improves on something that we have available today from the Oracle Analytics server usage statistics, like popular searches. That's a very discrete, singularly measurable metric that is put out in a report, but it doesn't really understand how your users are using the system, how they could better use it. We want to go far beyond basic data, like what is a popular search, or where did a user click, or what particular action did they take during a session. So we want to get beyond the basic and really understand their journey from start to finish. How did they actually access Summon? From where did they come? What kinds of searches were they doing at the time? How did they navigate throughout that search? What was their end result? Was there a drop off? A particular use case for this might be to see how custom panels, if you've got some of those integrated into Summon, how those are being used, if they're being used, and if not, maybe there's a way that you could, maybe moving a custom panel higher in the display would be more useful, highlighting it in some way to draw attention to it. And then you could do kind of a before and after to see what the impact was on that usage and how it may have increased or improved a user's journey, or not. So basically, I think I've said this 2 or 3 times now, but it's getting beyond the basic click here, didn't click here, and really looking at how users are engaging with the application overall. So I do have H2 listed on here. A rollout plan is not yet in the works. We are just starting to look at the events and properties that Summon has that we can be sending to Mixpanel. And to head off any questions, it is anonymous usage tracking. Mixpanel will know absolutely nothing about individual users if they have elected to log into Summon. It's completely anonymous, and it will take those events and properties and begin mapping out some engagement analytics as kind of sketched out on this mock-up here. Our next serve project is customizing the Summon splash page. this is something that we've heard for many years. It has finally garnered the votes in order to come to fruition. And the idea here is that the default summon splash page, unless you've done a lot of work with it, or you're in fact embedding a search widget on a different website. It's a search window and a search button, any scopes that you might have applied, and kind of nothing else. There's a lot of unused white space there that could be taken over and repurposed for other activities. So our idea here is to provide a framework for administrators to easily add things like local content, the new carousel widget, notifications, events, call outs to help, things like that. And I do want to zero in on the easily part of that. We don't want folks to have to be able to have coding skills or do any tremendous heavy lifting in order for this to be well used. And this is definitely a project where we will be engaging with our user experience team in order to kind of help us scope out a framework or a template that will allow administrators to, kind of easily put in the information that the library would like to see presented on that splash page. Um, the next project is, as I said, this one is near and dear to my heart. This is searching for the Summon admin console / customizer options. As Summon has grown over the years, and with many of our new features, there does tend to be a customizer component, whether to enable or disable it, how it could be customized. Things like that, translations even. So as that number has grown, it becomes increasingly difficult to remember exactly where a particular option or feature might live, including on which subtab, which page, what is the name of the feature. And and that's particularly true if you don't either work in Customizer a lot, or if you've only maybe touched a feature 1 or 2 times before. The idea here is that there'll be a search option, probably a keyword search option, for finding the option or the configuration excuse me, feature that you want to actually work with. Our next project is adding more links to the hamburger menu. Currently, you can configure one custom link in that menu. And our idea here is to, I'm toying around with the idea, and I'm going to vet this with my expert group, maybe up to 10. That's an artificial limit. It might be better to have more. We'll see when we talk about the requirements for that. Really, the only caveat here is how long you might want that list to be, and does it make sense to have 10 or 20 things listed under there? It may. I don't know. I could be completely wrong on this, but we'll figure that out and make that happen. Moving on to search, ranking, and CDI excellence. Our highlights for the year include incorporating document insights for our Summon researchers, implementing new rules for identifying book reviews, and adding a new secondary type for online first content. These are both marked as serve projects. They're technically not. It's based on the analysis that came out of the NERS projects last year. We committed and dedicated time to doing the analysis for how to address these issues. So our amazing analysts did that work, and now we're seeing the fruits of that analysis actually being implemented in 2025. And the last is doing a little refactoring of complex subject heading handling for the normalization of LCSH. So incorporating document insights. This is a tool that is powered by the ProQuest Research Assistant. Um, the idea here is that folks who are subscribed to relevant ProQuest collections will see some kind of visual cue or icon in the sum and brief results that lets you know that there are insights and key takeaways of the document or article that's accessible on the ProQuest platform. So it isn't anything that we're going to use to clutter up Summon or be confused with the Summon Research Assistant tool. It's just going to be an indication that when you link over to the ProQuest platform, there is more available information for you to see there, like an overview or summary. It should allow users to make quick decisions about the relevance and of a particular article that they found in Summit and then have, clicked through to view. As I said, this is powered by the ProQuest Research Assistant. It's going to be completely optional to mutual subscribers of that content, and not something that you would ever be forced to enable if you don't think that it's going to be valuable to your users. The next project coming out of the kind of CDI portion of the house is implementing the rules that we came up with last year, to the content ingestion rules, to better distinguish between books and book reviews. We all know how frustrating it can be for users to think that they're accessing a book when in fact it's a book review, and even vice versa. I know that we've been talking about this for a while, but I just wanted to emphasize that, we did the analysis on it, and now we actually have some rules that will allow us to pinpoint specifically ways to differentiate between books and book reviews. For example, the analysts found that if there's an ISBN in the title of the book, then that we have always, sorry, if there's an ISBN in the title that of something that we used to consider a book, chances are it's a book review. Based on, kind of reviewing hundreds of thousands of records, it looks like having an ISBN in a title is a pretty good indication that it's a book review. And so there are a variety of ways that we have been able to call out some ideas to, as I said, better distinguish between books and book reviews, and hopefully greatly lessen, if not eliminate, user frustration. So in terms of ahead of print or online first articles, and bear with me here because this does require a little bit of context and background. Some publishers, most of you probably already know this, publishers, they'll post articles on their primary platforms before those articles have actually been assigned to specific issues. So they may be peer reviewed, they've been accepted for publication, they just haven't been assigned to a specific issue. And that's great. Your users can mostly get that information from the primary publisher platform. The downside of getting that ahead of assigning it to a specific issue is that there is no volume, there's no issue, there's no page numbers. What that causes in practice is that articles, they may appear to be available from the summon results, but they may not actually be able to be accessed on an aggregator platform. So primary platform, yes, generally can get to that. The aggregator platform, we have a little more trouble linking to due to the lack of that enumeration. We can't make the connection all the time. That is a very, very complex problem to solve. But so as a beginning step, what we want to do is add a visual cue, something like not something like, sorry, assigning a new secondary content type that I'm just shorthanding here is online first. Um, we could use other nomenclature as desired, but adding a visual cue to the results, it's let folks know that, this is available, possibly available online. Um, but it hasn't actually been assigned to a journal. And so as a beginning step, we hope that this will help you to explain to your users why perhaps they can't link out to a particular particular article. Um, and have that conversation with them and allow them to learn that perhaps that means that secondary content type means that it may not necessarily be accessible. And the rules that we're looking at for that and kind of refining right now are that articles that have been published and published online in the last 6 months, but where all of the participants' records lack that enumeration of volume, issue, or page. So obviously that will change after the 6 months part. But so that is the initial rule we're looking at. Okay, and granted, this is not going to solve a linking problem. This is more of a visual cue to the user that there is that this article may not be accessible. The problem of actually um, gauging whether you as a library have access to a particular article from the primary platform versus an aggregator, and that the aggregator being something that is potentially not linkable to, is quite a bit more complex and something that we need to work through and put together a plan for how to address. Just saying, do you have access on a primary platform versus aggregator? It's a vast simplification of the issue and the internal workings of both the search application like Summon and CDI, and the information that gets shared between those tools is extremely complex. But we have a sense of how best to fix the issue, and the new secondary content type is the initial phase of that. And lastly, for the search and CDI focus area, we're taking a look based on feedback from the community about complex subject heading normalization. The big issue that some folks have rightfully pushed back against, I'm certainly no subject headings expert, nor am I a cataloger, but there are some situations where there's a complex subject heading that has a non-authorized subdivision. And our current process of normalization basically breaks apart the main subject heading from that non-authorized subdivision and puts the non-authorized subdivision in the keyword bucket, so to speak. So it's not treating the overall complex subject heading as a fully authorized subject heading. So if you're with me through that, the issue this causes is that researchers are perhaps able to search, filter, and see the display of the primary subject heading, but not the subdivision. So they aren't able to necessarily narrow or tailor their search as when there's a free-floating subdivision, whether it's geographic or date oriented, or what have you. It's unfortunately the normalization keeps the searching, faceting, and display capabilities fairly broad. So what we're going to do is take a look at that normalization process to ensure that fully authorized subject headings, whether or not they have a non-authorized subdivision, are treated as fully authorized, including in searchability, displaying, and filtering. Um, and with that, I am going to go ahead and just take a brief look at the what's coming in, well, what's currently in your preview environment and what is coming into production in a week. That will give us some time for questions. So be ready to load up the Q&A chats window with those. February is kind of, typically a smaller-ish release. We have a lot of resolutions to reported issues, and that's just due to, as I'm sure everyone has encountered, holiday, vacation time off, staffing, and we don't generally have a January preview, or sorry, January monthly maintenance release. So what we're looking at for February is increasing the SAML timeout from 15 minutes to 24 hours so that researchers don't get booted out before they are done with their work. We have a chat widget email changes that include making it show as from no reply at Clarivate so that we're DKIM, DMARC, and SPIF protocol compliant. There's been some changes to the content ingestion report emails. Again, the from address has been changed to no reply at, and there were some cases where there was only an HTML element of BR break displaying. The bulk export email now currently or correctly displays CJK language materials. There were also some cases where Sierra and Koha libraries were experiencing a really long delay in seeing real-time availability or not seeing it all on some of the details pages. So that has been repaired. Records whose only write source is a print format library specific holdings database now accurately show a check availability status instead of full text online. And we have some linker updates for Elsevier databases listed here. So if you were impacted by any of those issues, please do take a peek in the preview environment and ensure that things are working as expected. I kind of started out talking about the February release as being impacted by holidays, vacation, staffing, etc. But more importantly, the team has been working nonstop on getting research assistants integrated into these Summon environment. They've been working on the fixes that have been, the reports that have been coming in from the Primo users of their version of the Research Assistant and kind of porting those over into our Summon Research Assistant tool environment. And that includes anything from, a problem report to, as I mentioned earlier, accessibility. So lots of work going on. The Research Assistant tool you are going to see, again, you guys say it with me, March 5th. It is coming out on March 5th. It will be available for turning on in both the preview release then and the production release. Okay, and with that, I'm going to stop gabbing and go into the Q&A window. All right, so let me start out here. All right, so this is a question about the about the research assistant. What is the data source used to compile the AI response and how the algorithm prioritizes among that data. The source is from CDI, the publishers and platforms that have elected to participate in it. Are the sources from which we call that data. How the algorithm prioritizes, I am not entirely comfortable answering that prioritization for the data. So that is something that I will follow up on. Um, Next up, sorry. When you say that the research assistant translates the natural language question into summon syntax, does that include using relevant fasces or only the query string? It's the query string. This is no cost to you. At We do not anticipate passing along any cost to you right now. I will not guarantee, questioner, that there will never be a cost, but it is certainly not likely, simply because we've seen the costs of doing these searches go down for us. You know, that was another reason for some of the guardrails that we put into the research assistant tool, is because there's a cost that we take on whenever a search is executed. We have seen that cost go down steadily over the months. So we do not anticipate that we will ever be charging you for this. But you know, from my perspective, that's kind of above my pay grade and nothing that I would feel comfortable guaranteeing. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be wishy-washy about that. Did I hear correctly that users accessing the research assistant by IP are treated as guests? Yes, if they are being treated as a guest, the only way that we can kind of cap that the number of searches per day is by kind of pooling all those guests together and treating them as a single profile. So there would be an aggregate of 1,000 searches per day for guests. I think I mentioned that that those thresholds are something that we can control, move up and down, and um, if we find out that that particular threshold is insufficient, that is something that we can definitely talk about changing and increasing if necessary. Will a mixed panel be a replacement for the current summon usage statistics or an addition? It will be a replacement for summon OAS usage statistics. As I said, we don't have a firm rollout plan or a time frame for it yet. We are just in the beginning stages of getting those events and properties kind of ported over into mixed panel. But it will be phasing out the summon OAS usage statistics. Can you elaborate on the linker updates for Elsevier? Not in any detail off the top of my head. These are generally, I mean, in a broad sense, linker updates are when there's a change to the syntax, when there's a change to how the platform asks that we query or send an open URL. I can dig into that and perhaps provide a more detail if you need that information. But off the top of my head, it's just generally kind of those linker monthly updates that we deliver. I'm sorry. Um, Summon Research Assistant, is it available in multiple languages? It will be, yes, and that will be part of the FAQ. I can provide more information on that. Uh, so building off of my recent answer, mixed panel change says 2025 H2. Can you give us a clearer idea of when to expect mixed panel to be available? Um, As I said, there's nothing firm in terms of implementation now. Probably we will try to roll it out to a few sites in advance of a general rollout, just to do some baseline kind of table setting there. But there is nothing. It will not be completely replacing OAS this year. It's more of the work will be ready to begin some more serious QA and testing and previewing towards the end of the year. What LLM is the research assistant based on? I have to get you that information. I don't have that at hand. All right, so there are a few things that I need to follow up on here. Specifically, the prioritization of the research assistant algorithm for the CDI data. And the last one is specifically about the LLM. And thank you for these questions. I do greatly appreciate it. It certainly shows me where I need to kind of beef up my understanding of the research assistant and also be able to communicate more effectively about it in terms of delivering information in the next couple of weeks. So I do greatly appreciate that. I don't see any more questions in the chat at this time. But I do want to point out on this slide that you can reach me at amy.pemble@clarivate.com. And so if you do have any um, add-on questions or things that that you think would be good to provide information about, and especially in terms of research assistant, please do reach out to me. I would enjoy that feedback. And so lastly, I want to thank you all for your commitment to Summon and for being fantastic customers. You always take a thoughtful approach to Summon and a very reasonable one. We enjoy working on the suggestions that we get via the Serve program, via the Ideas Exchange. We love to hear how you use Summon. And so thank you for that. And also thank you for your participation, whether it's joining these webinars and understanding it, being on a list, participating in the Ideas Exchange and voting. We do thank you very much for your feedback. So again, reach out to me at clarivate.com if you need anything from me, and I will be able to follow up on these couple of questions that came through in the chat. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a terrific rest of your day. Bye now.